question in our mind during the course of labor of a patient is the fetus doing well? Is the fetus doing well? You all know that the blood vessels from the uterine artery will have to pass through the myofibers, the myometrium, and before reaching the placenta. And during contractions, these vessels are constricted. Um, well, one, it will give more time for the blood to interact together with the chorionic villi. That means more time for diffusion. At the same time, it also will have um, constriction of the blood vessels means also less blood flowing into the chorionic villi. So if contractions are prolonged, then it will compromise. It will compromise the oxygenation of the placenta and as well as the fetus. So the fetus will have hypoxemia in this case. And when there is accumulation of the acid, then there would be fetal acidemia. So these are the two things that we need to monitor during labor. Is there enough oxygenation of the fetal blood? Unfortunately, we don't have any ABG studies for the fetus. We found out that what is quite sensitive would be the nervous system of the fetus. Nervous system. They're very sensitive to the changes in the oxygenation levels. And how do we monitor the nervous system of the fetus? We cannot do a neurologic examination on the fetus. But what we can measure would be the reaction of the fetal heart rate to the hypoxemia. We can measure that because it will affect, or the hypoxemia can affect the nervous system, which controls the heart rate. That, in essence, is what intrapartum fetal assessment is all about. Dominic, how do you know if the baby is alive in utero? How will you know if the baby is still alive in utero? Anong papakinggan mo?
Ano po, Doc?
Paano malalaman kung buhay yung bata sa loob ng uterus? Heart rate, di ba? Pakinggan mo ng heart rate. That is why in earlier times, you still use the stethoscope or the fetoscope in identifying. So in between contractions, we can monitor if the heart rate is normal or not. Unfortunately, in cases where there is comorbidities, meaning it will affect generally the fetal status in terms of oxygenation, then monitoring the heart rate is not just simply enough. We need to identify these patients who cannot tolerate such vigorous conditions like labor. So Dominic said, let's observe for the fetal heart rate. Okay. But even before the fetal heart rate goes down, and we can actually probably get an ECG, an ECG of the fetus. The only problem with getting ECG is how do we place those the ones that we have to place in the those monitors. You have to have the membranes ruptured before you can place all these gadgets inside. You have to place the electrodes on the skin, just like an ordinary ECG. So we call this an internal direct electronic monitoring. So it's like really a cardiotocogram of the fetal heart. However, it is too invasive. No? As you can see on the left side, these monitors, these gadgets, these sensors will have to be placed on the skin of the fetus. That means membranes must be ruptured. I'm sorry, cervix must be dilated. Cervix, amniotic membrane should be ruptured. And you know what the complications are in these types of cases. You will have chorioamnionitis later on. Although it can be considered as invasive because you need to rupture the membranes. On the other hand, by the principle of Doppler, you can place sensors and use the principle of Doppler is making use of an ultrasound, sound waves. And we found out that if you bombard a tissue with the sound waves, it will be reflected back by a solid or a surface. And the change in the frequency or the echoes will determine the shape and the consistency of that surface that reflects the echo back. Now, the principle of Doppler is when there is a moving part. So the speed of the moving part, like blood flowing to a vessel, can change the reflected frequency. And so you can probably identify that changes or movements can be monitored through these sensors. So the heart rate through the course of span of, let's say, 10 minutes, you can monitor the changes in the heart rate, again, using the Doppler principle. So these are external electronic monitoring. These are placed on the abdominal, on the abdomen of the mother. You place the sensors, identify where the fetal back is, because that's where the heart sounds are. If you auscultate it, that is where maximal sound is generated sa fetal back. At the same time, we can also measure the tension of the uterus. So that means we can determine the powers of the uterus in terms of, we can measure the contractions and the power of the contraction or intensity of the contraction through these sensors. So dami, di ba? Dami na nakalagay dyan. There's also, if you notice, which is more accurate, obviously the internal monitoring would be more accurate. But it's too invasive for such conditions. Okay. Ano makikita natin? Ano makikita natin? Well, we can monitor, we can plot the minute changes in heart rate. The minute changes in heart rate. I don't know what how you had your antenatal surveillance. The fetal tracing has been discussed to you. Nonetheless, there are many terms or terminologies used by different organizations. And so what the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development Research Planning Workshop defined really what these heart rate changes are if plotted on a paper. So the paper would run for 1 cm, 3 centimeters per minute. No, 3 centimeters per minute. Kaya pag tinignan natin dito, so from this point to that point should be 1 minute. So ito is 1 centimeter. This is another centimeter. So it's another centimeter. Okay. The figure on the topmost would be the fetal heart rate. So this is the fetal heart rate. As you can see, there are variations. These are variations in the fetal heart rate. The normal heart rate would be somewhere between 110 to 160. Saan yung 160 dito? 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Diyan. Somewhere here. So dapat andyan yung kanyang the normal fetal heart rate. So the normal variations, and these are the beat-to-beat variability, as you can see here. It changes. And this beat-to-beat variability is secondary to the sympathetic, parasympathetic interplay of the nervous system, changing the heart rate. Pag tumaas, sympathetic yun. Pag bumaba, parasympathetic. So nako-control. So what does it mean? It means that the central nervous system is working. That means it's working because it can adapt to minute changes. So what do we see here? Again, if this was already discussed, you just let me take a review or a more systematic approach in reading the electronic fetal monitoring. So on top would be the heart rate, changes in the heart rate. At the bottom, palitan natin green to. Ito sa bottom would be the contractions. The normal effective rate of contractions would be every 2 to 3 minutes. So in the span of 10 minutes, the patient would have had 3 contractions. And I hope this was discussed to you that we can measure this from the peak to the baseline of the contractions. You can measure that, and the units used here is Montevideo units. Montevideo named after the city in Uruguay, where the obstetrician gynecologists have gathered and make a consensus regarding these units. Kaya tinawag nila Montevideo units yan. And so if you add in a 10-minute stretch, you add or you get the summation of these contractions, will get you the total amount of Montevideo units. So they would say that at least 200 Montevideo units is necessary for an effective contraction. But the true gauge of power would have to be cervical dilatation, or the rate of cervical dilatation. If you remember the Friedman's curve, merong maximum slope. May paakyat na ganun eh. Doon, cervical dilatation yun. That is a function of powers. Pag di nagdadilate yan, kulang ka sa powers. And if you remember the 3 Ps in labor, 3 Ps. Number 1 is the passenger, the fetus, the weight of the fetus. Hindi mo naman pwedeng palitan yung fetus eh, yung weight niya. Andun na yung passenger na yan eh. The next P is passage or the pelvis. Ganun, hindi mo pwedeng lakihin yung pelvis. Ang pwede mo lang i-control yung the last P, which is powers. On the next lecture, merong ano yan eh, yung sa, you can give oxytocin to increase the powers of the contractions. So the beat-to-beat variability that you will find sa taas, as I mentioned, is a sign of good fetal being, because the central nervous system, sympathetic, parasympathetic, would be working. Just like if you move, ikaw gumalaw ka, pag gumalaw ka o tumakbo ka, naglakad ka, there is a corresponding increase in heart rate, diba? Siyempre pagod ka, compensate yung heart eh. At the same, ganun din sa fetus. Pag gumalaw yan, dapat you will find an acceleration. Kailan magkaroon ng acceleration? Tulad ito, may acceleration. And acceleration, that's an acceleration. Kasi gumalaw yung bata eh. So, ginagawa natin yung pagalawin, di ba, yung NST. You still remember what an NST is? Non-stress test. Pagalawin mo yung bata, dapat magkaroon ng acceleration sa paggalaw. At pag hindi siya gumagalaw, pag hindi gumagalaw, anong ating conclusion? Anong mga possible conclusion natin pag hindi gumagalaw yung bata? Si Dominic, ang ganda ng pangalan, Dominic Noel Rivera. What do you think?
Dok, pwedeng may possible po na hindi na po buhay yung baby.
Correct. Baka patay yung bata. Pakinggan mo yung heart rate, di ba? Okay yung heart rate. Anong ating conclusion pag hindi gumagalaw yung bata? Okay yung heart rate. Ang tingin mo, Miss Dominic? Buhay yung bata gumagalaw. May heart rate Conclusion. Ikaw ba, pag may heart rate pero di ka gumagalaw, anong conclusion mo doon? Parang nakikinig ka sa isang webinar, tapos tinawag ka. Diba? Ikita ko yung picture mo. Ganun. Pwede ka sumasagot. Ano yung sabihin nun? Patay ka na, ganon?
Pwede pong natutulog po yung bata.
Correct! Natutulog yung estudyante. Diba? So, pwede natutulog. Paano natin gigisingin yung bata, Dominic? Ikaw, paano ka ginigising? Para 7 o'clock class, paano ka gigisingin?
Dok, pwede pong...
Ano? Paano ka ginigising?
Kakalabitin po, Dok.
Gawin natin. Kalibitin natin yung fetus. Pero yung karamihan naglalagay ng alarm clock, di ba? Sound. Di ba? Sound. So, ganun din na gawin natin. Maglagay tayo ng vibroacoustic. Lagay tayo ng sound, di ba? Para gumalaw, yung magising yung bata. Tapos, pag nagising yung bata, gagalaw, we expect an acceleration in the heart rate kasi gumalaw siya. Di ba? Yun ang normal, a reactive NST. Di ba? That's a reactive NST. So, you can also do that while definitely in labor. Ganun din. Tingnan mo. Pag gumalaw siya at nagkaroon ng acceleration, that's good. However, kaya tinawag na non-stress test yun Non-stress kasi walang ka-stress. Ito, merong contractions. Ito may contractions During labor, may contractions. So this is very similar to what a CST is, contraction stress test. But this time, we're not going to simulate contractions because there are contractions already. And this is a form of stress. So we had to identify ano ba nangyayari sa fetus during this stress. Di ba sa CST, pag tinignan natin yung CST, during the contraction, if you find deceleration, di ba? And when there is a persistent deceleration, means 50% of all the contractions in a 10-minute window, CCS ko na yun. That means the fetus cannot tolerate the stress of labor. Di ba? Ganun din dito. Pag nakakita ako ng persistent late deceleration dito, CCS ko na yung pasyente. Kasi if you continue the labor further, mamatayan ka ng fetus. So, yung nomenclature na ginawa nila because other people are, what's an acceleration, what is a deceleration. So they agreed, they agreed on the terminology, and this is what we're going to do today. Just to summarize, to review what these terminologies are. So una natin tingnan natin yung heart rate. No, tingnan natin yung heart rate. Pangalawa, tingnan natin yung variability. So, in this case, ang lit ang drawing eh. So, yeah. Kaya natin. So, the first is heart rate. What is the baseline heart rate? So, tingnan natin yung consistent. Ano ba yung consistent na heart rate dito? As you can see, there is a bit-to-bit variability. So pag tinignan natin, it has to be somewhere here. Kasi nasa 120, 1 to 30, 40, 50. Pasan, nasa 150 to eh. Ganyan, so 150. So baseline here is 150. What do you mean bit-to-bit variability? So pag tinignan natin yung bit-to-bit variability, pag natin kulay. Maliliit na yan, yung maliliit na yan. I think this is more than 5 kasi tumatawid siya dun sa sa isang line. Sa isang line na ganun, 5 eh. So pag tumawid siya dun, pag hindi siya tumawid, parang ganun ano yun, 0 to minimal. Pag tumawid siya sa isang box na ganun, more than 5 yun. Pag more than 5 boxes, marked variability. You'll notice that it is always, the bit-to-bit variability is the most reliable of sign of fetal well-being as compared to the others. Mas reliable, meaning when you find it, it is more consistent for fetal well-being. Next. So baseline here is from 110 to 160. If it is more than 160, it is tachycardia. It's less than 110, it is bradycardia. So pag tinignan natin ito, baseline niya is somewhere here. Yeah. So it's somewhere between 125 to 130. It's a baseline. Okay. Now, variability, on the other hand, as was mentioned, maliit ito eh. Basta hindi gumagalaw, none. Absent. Pag minimal, within 1 box, 1 box. So figure number 2. Figure number 3, if it's more than 1 box to less than 5 boxes, 6 to 25 beats per minute. So the normal is the moderate amplitude of bit-to-bit variability. Sinasabi dito na changes, apparently the nervous system is already compromised. It cannot react anymore. Hypoxemia might be chronic already. You might need to terminate the pregnancy. The fetus may have a better chance of survival outside the uterus. So what are the causes of absent variability? Yung number 1, fetal acidemia, as I mentioned, hypoxemia leading to acidemia. Pwede natutulog yung bata, pero in many cases, this is quite rare. Di gisingin, dali naman gisingin yung bata eh. In cases of prematurity, especially if it's less than 32 weeks, pwedeng absent yung kasi because the nervous system is not yet mature. There are certain drugs like magnesium sulfate, diazepam. These are, magnesium sulfate is to prevent eclampsia or seizures, the same way with diazepam. Meperidine, on the other hand, is a sedative. again, that can cause a decrease in the tonality of, hindi tonality, it can depress the nervous system. Vagal blockade also, again, parasympathetic overload, so to speak. And then you can have a defective cardiac conduction system. Ang problema, pag hindi natin nakita yan, paano natin ma-rule out yung iba? Because we need to intervene. We need to intervene. We cannot just simply look at, baka natutulog. Baka effect yan ng magnesium. Baka ganito yan. Baka ganun yan. We need to see exactly, pag hindi ako sigurado, CCS ko to, hindi ako sigurado. Ayoko mamatay ng fetus. I'd rather err on the side of commission. Rather err on the side of omission. Sabihin, magkamali na ako dahil may ginagawa ako. Kasi yung nagkamali ako dahil wala akong ginawa. So diminished variability can be an ominous sign that indicates a serious compromised fetus. As I mentioned, it is the single most reliable sign of fetal compromise. Cardiac arrhythmia is basically looking at where is the source of the source of the trigger. If you remember, the heartbeat is triggered and the signal will be coming from the SA node of the heart. Diba? SA node yan, pupunta sa AV node, tapos pupunta yan sa septum, tapos paikot na ganun. Diba ganun yung niya sa adult. Question dito, nakikita natin sa ECG. What about in the fetus? Can we see cardiac arrhythmia in the fetus? Well, with external monitor, it's very difficult to identify. Kailangan talaga natin ng internal monitor to determine if there is really cardiac arrhythmia. So, again, in the Philippines, we seldom do a scalp ECG. Parang I'll use your term, hindi siya high yield. Hindi siya high. The utility of doing a scalp pH or a scalp ECG has been questioned. Now, this is a unique pattern. This is a sinusoidal pattern. Repeat, that means, can you see variations? Can you see the heart rate changing, adapting to a particular scenario? Bakit pare-pareho yan, sinusoidal? So that means the central nervous system must have been compromised already. So it gives you a poor prognosis when you see a sinusoidal pattern. So this is sine wave. I don't know if you still remember your trigonometry in high school. What is a sine wave, a cosine wave? But this is a sine wave. So again, gives you a poor prognosis if you find a sinusoidal pattern. One, because it may be caused by intracranial hemorrhage, severe fetal asphyxia, fetal anemia. Again, all points to a possible fetal death if not managed properly. Okay. But the conclusions were not, shall we say, as reliable as bit-to-bit variability or absent bit-to-bit variability. Kasi may mga nakikita nila, nabubuhay naman itong mga to, kahit na may sinusoidal heart rate. Okay. So they always will have to look into the clinical correlation. It's not simply just the sinusoidal pattern. Other comorbidities available. Look at the heart rate and other signs of fetal compromise. That's what they're saying. Pero dahil ang dami-daming pwedeng isipin dito, ang ginawa nila, nag-categorize na lang sila, and later on, I'll help you how to memorize this. So when you look at the heart rate, if it's less than 110, it could be bradycardia. And it could be simply head compression. So pag bumaba yung head, naglilabor yung pasyente during the descent of the fetal head, pwedeng the head skull may have to be compressed, stimulating vagal responses. So pwede magkaroon talaga ng fetal bradycardia. So parasympathetic. Or it could be a sign of fetal compromise. Or it could be a sign of maternal hypothermia. Madali yung hypothermia, hawakan mo lang yung nanay. So you will know kung malamig siya o hindi. Ang mahirap yung congenital heart block. Because as I mentioned, you need to have an internal monitor for that. But nonetheless, kung ako tumitingin sa kanyang tracing, pag nagkaroon ng bradycardia yan, paano kung di na tumaas? Kunyari, pag head compression, nawala na yung head compression, nanganak na, di dapat, okay, well and good. Para kung tuloy-tuloy yung fetal bradycardia. At tapos bilang bumaba pa, I have to identify, ano ba to? Head compression lang ba to or fetal compromise? So that's the length of time would matter. Tachycardia, on the other hand, if it is more than 160 beats per minute. So what are the possible causes? Obviously, maternal fever, infection. Again, there could be cardiac arrhythmias. So tingnan natin, ano bang fever? May fever ba yung nanay? Other signs that fetus is compromised also. So in both ways, kaya nagkakaroon ng tachycardia, the fetal heart would have to compensate for something. Ganun din tayo to compensate. Now let's look at the different electronic heart rate definitions. What is an acceleration? I hope this was already discussed to you, that the acceleration should be sorry. It should be greater than 15 beats per minute from the baseline, with a duration of 15 seconds. 15 seconds. Before 32 weeks, it is 10 beats per minute increase over a period of 10 seconds or more. So, mas madaling tandaan niya. 15-15, pagdating ng 32 weeks below, 10-10. Okay. But if it extends to more than 2 minutes, hindi na acceleration yan. Baka naman baseline na yan, increase in baseline. So magiging tachycardic na yan. Ganon. So that is what an acceleration. Obviously, if it's a non-stress test, an acceleration is a good sign, as well as during the course of labor. That's a good sign. That means the fetus is able to react. So it's always reassuring that the fetus is not acidemic at the time. Okay. What about deceleration? So deceleration is basically a drop of a gradual decrease in heart rate. A gradual decrease in heart rate. So for about 30 seconds, okay, from the onset, as you can see on the graph. What is important here is we need to take a look at the shape. At the start of the contractions, as you can see here, at the start of the contractions, you already see that there's also the start of the nadir. So mababa na siya. So it looks like the mirror image. And when you see this picture, it is called an early deceleration. And what is the clinical significance of this? Well, basically, it means that there could be head compression. So if the fetus is already in the second stage of labor and negotiating the pelvic cavity, kakaroon talaga ng head compression yon. There's vagal stimulation and there will be a decrease in fetal heart rate. So, depende kung saan mo makikita yung yung early deceleration. If it is in the latter stages of labor, second stage in particular, or the pelvic division, that's perfectly all right. Okay. Pero kung aga-aga pa, 1 cm dilated, ay, may problema tayo dyan. Bakit may head compression dyan? Okay. What else? This is, again, take a look at this. This is late deceleration, quite an ominous sign. The contraction would start. Contraction would start ba't tayo sumulat? Contraction would start. That means oxygen blood is compromised. When it reaches its peak, nagmagre-react na. So dito sa time na to, the fetus is still able to compromise. But at the peak of the contraction, wala na, magde-decelerate na siya. Nagkakang-deceleration. So we call it late deceleration. It's basically a measure of uteroplacental insufficiency. Now, in cases of epidural anesthesia and there's a sudden drop of blood pressure of the mother, again, that means there's a decrease in the flow to the placenta. The same way with uterine hyperactivity, that there are too much contractions going on, it is going to compromise the uteroplacental insufficiency. So we need to make some adjustments or intervention. So ang ginagawa dito pag ganyan, yung sinasabi ng let's resuscitate. There should be fetal resuscitation. And how do we do that? Well, you place the patient on the left lateral recumbent position so that you increase the maternal venous return. You can give oxygen to the mother. And if there is hyperactivity, you can give something to quiet the contractions. If it is maternal hypotension due to epidural anesthesia, you can probably push more fluid into the system so that you increase the venous return. So pag nagtuloy-tuloy yan, obviously if there is oxytocin being given, you need to withdraw the oxytocin. And see what's going to happen. So tingnan nyo lang kung mirror image early. Pag medyo huli yung pag-decelerate niya, ito late deceleration. Ang hirap yan pag bumaba na gano'n, no? Tapos hindi na bumalik. Tuloy-tuloy na yung pagbaba nung heart rate. On this picture naman, you will find that the deceleration has nothing to do with the contraction as far as timing is concerned. So timing, number one, walang kinalaman sa contraction. And number two, the drop in the heart rate is quite abrupt. No, it's quite abrupt. So that would differentiate with the other types of deceleration. Ito, sudden yung pagbaba niya. So it's something to do with cord compression. So variable deceleration has something to do with cord compression. You will find that the onset of the deceleration is quite abrupt on the right hand picture. And you will find this as you know that the veins are thin-walled while the artery are thick-walled. So when there is contraction of the myometrium, and the cord is compromised. That means there is contractions, constrictions, or occlusion of the umbilical cord. Obviously, the one that will be compressed first would be the thin-walled umbilical vein. So the heart rate would compensate. So nagkakaroon ng a slight increase in the heart rate. And when the umbilical artery is already also compromised, magde-decelerate. That's why you will find shouldering in such cases. Problema pag yung deceleration na prolong. If it is more than 2 minutes, baka naman hindi na deceleration yan. Baka naman a change in the baseline. Baka makuha na talaga yung baseline niya. Unfortunately, it's that's very dangerous. I'll be quite afraid if this is prolonged because baka tuloy-tuloy yan. Nag-change sa baseline tapos magiging 0. Patay. So this is an example of prolonged deceleration. So what are the common causes? Pag nag-IE, ganyan, stimulate, makikita, nag-decelerate. Pero once you remove your examining finger, babalik na siya. Or you try in hyperactivity. Problema pag hindi na bumalik hindi na bumabalik. Anong nangyari? Baka nagkaroon na ng cord prolapse. Umbilical cord prolapse. So what you can do is push the head. Perhaps the cord during the examination, the cord could have insinuated itself between the head and the uterine cavity. So naipit siya. So, tulak mo para ma-reduce yung pressure. Now, fetal scalp sampling, ganun din sa paano ko malalaman kung time to intervene or not. Parang yung CST rin yan. If 50% of all of the contractions will exhibit late deceleration, that means it is persistent. That's a sign that the fetus can no longer tolerate the labor. So, CCS ko siya. Fetal scalp sampling is a better tool to determine, more accurate tool in determining fetal acidemia. Problema lang, too invasive, so we don't normally do it. There are many complications arising from it. Nonetheless, you know that the normal pH of the fetal blood is lower compared to the adult or to the mother. So kung yung normal pH natin is from 7.35 to 7.45, 7.4 being the median. Dito mas mababa Kita mo, pag 7.25, observe. 7.2 to 7.25, you repeat. Ang daming tusok na. Puro tusok. Pag less than 7.2, ako hindi. CCS ko na to. Ang daming variables actually. Kasi if you're doing an ABG, diretso Diretso, aspirate mo sa artery. Dito, you prick mo yung scalp, tapos you let the blood flow into a capillate. Siyempre may exposure na yun sa air. So, it will not be as accurate as an ABG for a dot. Okay. Ano pa ba? So as I mentioned, pag tulog yung pasyente, isingin natin. One fellow of perinatology did the research. Ang ginawa niya, wala kasi mahal tong vibroacoustic gadget. Ginawa niya, ginamit niya yung cellphone.
pinatunog niya with vibration. Tinapat niya dun sa abdomen ng buntis. O, di nagising yung bata. Pwede naman pala yun. Hindi naman pala kailangan bumili nito. Vibro, vibrate yung cellphone. Acoustic, may sound. O, magigising nga talaga yung bata. So, ladies and gentlemen, use your cellphone, yung alarm. No, itapat nyo sa tiyan nyo rin, baka magising kayo. Yung pulse oximeter, problema yan kasi, again, you need to place it on top of the surface or the skin of the fetus. That means, kailangan ruptured yung bag. Ang problema niyan, kung gusto mo kung tagla mo as accurate as possible, kung nilagay mo yun sa abdominal, ang daming makukuha mo yung maternal, makukuha yung processing niyan, kailangan may algorithm ka para isubtract mo yung sa maternal. Not used. Utility, poor. So, hindi namin ginagawa. And so is the fetal echocardiography. So, this is what they did. And they looked at categories. So, tinignan nila yung category 1, 2, and 3. Pag category 1 normal, pag category 3 abnormal, somewhere in between is indeterminate. So, ang gagawin natin, i-memorize mo lang yung category 1 saka category 3. If it does not fall in any of these, category 2. Mas madali i-memorize yung category 1 saka 3. Kesa yung category 2. Ang dami ng category 2 So, pag category 3, required action ka agad. Kung kailangan mo CS mo na kaagad. 1, observe ka lang. Category 2, ang dami pang titignan dyan, iba-iba. So, ito madaling memorize to Category 1, normal ang baseline heart rate. Normal ang variability. Walang decelerations. The early could be present or absent, or even acceleration can be present or absent. So basically, tatlo lang yung memorize. Normal heart rate, normal variability, walang late or variable deceleration. Period. Normal yon. Category 2. Wag muna natin pansinin to. Punta tayo sa category 3. Ang dami category 2 category 3. Ito. Absent variability plus any of the following. So, ang requirement dito, absent variability. Okay, plus, merong recurrent late deceleration, may recurrent variable deceleration, or there is bradycardia. But if there is absent in any of the following, abnormal na yun. Or you have sinusoidal pattern, abnormal yun. So anything else, somewhere in between is category 2. Ang dami kasing category 2. Ang hirap i-memorize. So yun na lang memorizing. Okay. If you're not sure of the intervention, CS nyo. So meconium in the amniotic fluid, 2 reasons why there would be, well, there are several hypotheses, but the first hypothesis is if you find meconium in the amniotic fluid, that means the gastrointestinal tract of the fetus is mature, gumagalaw. Kaya nailabas yung meconium. That's number 1. Number 2, baka may fetal distress. Baka may fetal distress. And that's quite problematic. How do we know if it is normal or abnormal? 1, we know that the gastrointestinal tract is mature. Pero hindi natin alam, ano ba, mayroong fetal distress ba to? Wala. Ganun. May fetal distress ba to? Wala. So ang question dyan, if it's thickly meconium, what would be the danger? So the danger here is as the fetus, as the neonate, lumabas na, di ba? Lumabas na yung huminga yan. Ay paghinga niya, di papasok yung meconium sa respiratory tree. Pwede yung mag-obstruct. And the neonate will develop meconium aspiration syndrome. There is going to be pneumonia, pneumonitis, etc. 50% mortality rate. So we'd like to prevent meconium aspiration syndrome. So the question here is, can cesarean section prevent the syndrome or the aspiration? Ando dun na eh. O, hindi mo pwedeng paghinga lang siya papasok. Siyempre, there is breathing in utero. So, can cesarean section prevent that? Well, it is still controversial. However, in many studies, they found out that if you intervene in the early stages of labor, sabihin less than 4 cm, mga ganyan pa lang, it can prevent meconium aspiration syndrome. So you need to look at meconium aspiration and assess it based on clinical events and see whether an intervention is necessary or not. Okay, sinasabi dito kasi sa study nila na only few are linked to neonatal mortality. However, our experience in FEU hospital and other local hospital, when you have thickly meconium stained amniotic fluid in the presence in early part of labor, ultimately it will lead to abnormalities in deceleration in heart rate. So hindi na namin hinihintay yun. We usually terminate the pregnancy by cesarean section. Okay. What else? Amnion infusion to be able to dilute the meconium has not been found. Has not been found to increase or to decrease the perinatal mortality, morbidity. So, gagawin ba natin to? Hindi. However, it has decreased cesarean section rate. Oh, pero yung survival ng fetus, hindi nagbago. Ganun pa rin. Ganun pa rin. So, ginagawa namin? Hindi. Hindi naman nagbago. And look at the complications. Ang daming complications yan. We did our own studies here in the Philippines. Well, in Jose Reyes, and there is an increase in complication rates. Well, it is higher compared to what is in the Western countries. May fetal death nga kami in utero. So we abandoned amnio infusion already. So how do we monitor the fetus while in labor? Well, these are the differentiate a low risk from high risk pregnancies. So sa prenatal care, malalaman mo na kung high risk pregnancy yan, hindi. During admissions, makikita mo kung high risk siya, hindi high risk. Kung high risk siya, you need intermittent auscultation, meaning you still need to use your stethoscope for that. You still have to have a continuous electronic fetal monitor. Okay. Pero ano yung interval niya? Well, sa first stage of labor, 30 minutes for low risk, while you increase it every 50 minutes for high risk pregnancies. While in the second stage of labor, it is 15 minutes for low risk and 5 minutes for high risk pregnancies. And this is where a difference in management or care for in a low resource setting compared to a high resource setting. Siyempre sa Philippines, yung manpower ratio is less compared. So yung patient to the obstetrician ratio is quite high here in the Philippines. 60% of all deliveries are done by midwives in the Philippines. So may electronic fetal monitor sila? Wala. So they rely on that stethoscope, and should there be any intervention that is necessary, they still have to refer the patient to a tertiary or a general hospital. Okay, what else? Any questions? So if you have any questions, you can raise them during the small group discussions. I suggest that you make use of the small group discussion for any of those. There are things that are not clear to you. Yun ang gamitin yun. Please ask questions during the... Hindi kami nagtatanong eh. Dapat tayo din nagtatanong doon pag hindi nyo naintindihan. Okay? That's you guys. Okay.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Doc.
Sandali, may sasagutin lang ako dito. Can patients request CS delivery if hirap na sila sa labor? Ang sagot ko dyan ay it is unethical to do a CS by request. We can do forceps extraction for material exhaustion. Yun, it's not ethical. I hope I answered your question. Thank you.